When Apple announced its Pro Display XDR 6K monitor at WWDC last year, the company called it the world's best Pro display, even comparing it to the Sony HX310 reference broadcast monitor. In this video review, we checked out Apple's claims using not only objective measurements, but also side-by-side comparison with none other than the Sony HX310 dual-layer LCD mastering monitor. Hello everyone, my name is Vincent Teo. I'm a display reviewer and professional calibrator. This is Apple's new Pro Display XDR monitor, which features a 32-inch screen with 16:9 aspect ratio and a 6K resolution of 6016 x 3384 pixels, giving us 218 pixels per inch. Two versions are available, a standard model with a glossy front screen and an upgraded nano-texture version with Apple's proprietary anti-glare coating. The standard glass model is priced at $5,000, while the nano-texture glass model will cost $1,000 extra. We ended up buying the standard glass version because we work mainly in a dark room and we are utterly broke after Christmas, CES and January, and we need to budget for the stand. That's right. The Apple Pro Display XDR doesn't even ship with a stand. You will have to spend $1,000 more for the official Pro stand, or go for the cheapskate option of buying the VESA mount adapter to be used together with a 30 quid aftermarket stand, which is what we did. The build quality of the monitor is exquisite, with meticulously rounded corners and precise edges. The rear of the monitor sports a cheese grater pattern machined out of aluminum, which acts as a large heatsink to dissipate heat from the LEDs in a silent fashion even during very bright HDR scenes. My only worry is dust getting in through the holes, so when I'm not using the monitor, I use a plastic bag from another TV I've unboxed to cover the screen, heeding the common sense advice to always use a bag. There is no HDMI input on the Pro Display XDR, only a Thunderbolt 3 and 3 USB-C ports. There are also no buttons or any on-screen menu on the Pro Display XDR. It can only be powered on by connecting a compatible Apple device. A healthy selection of picture presets, called reference modes, are available on the Pro Display XDR, but again, switching from one reference mode to another can only be done through a compatible Mac OS laptop or desktop. This is truly a closed ecosystem, making the monitor useless to non-Mac users. Back to the presets, the first two are Pro Display XDR, which goes up to an advertised 1600 nits for HDR content, as well as Apple Display, which caps peak white at 500 nits for SDR. With these two presets, the brightness slider can be adjusted, and unconventionally, the True Tone setting on the source device, a MacBook Pro in our case, would affect the color temperature on the monitor too, so make sure you turn True Tone off for the most accurate colors. With other reference modes such as the HDR video preset, which targets DCI-P3 color space and ST2084 electro-optical transfer function, the brightness setting is locked and grayed out, and there is no way to calibrate the grayscale or colors, although Apple states on its website that calibration controls will be made available in the future. To profile the Pro Display XDR and capture its spectral power distribution, we used our Jetty 1511 reference grade spectroradiometer, which showed that the monitor was using PFS phosphor in its LED light source to achieve wider color gamut. The onboard LCD panel is IPS with full array local dimming or FALD LED backlighting. Using our own custom-authored test pattern consisting a small white box crawling horizontally and then vertically against the borders of a black background, we counted 32 vertical columns and 18 horizontal rows, giving us a total of 576 independently dimmable zones. Because local dimming cannot be switched off, we created our own test pattern to measure the native contrast of the display. We call it the dimming defeater. With peak white aligned to the nominal SDR target of 100 candelas per square meter, black level measured 0.1 candelas per square meter, generating a mediocre contrast ratio of 1000 to 1, which is typical of IPS panels. Of course, blacks were much deeper with local dimming in action, dropping to 0.02 nits on an ANSI checkerboard pattern. To measure grayscale and color accuracy, we used our client K10A colorimeter profile to the aforementioned Jetty 1511 spectroradiometer. The most accurate picture preset for SDR video is naturally HDTV video. On our review sample, it produced close to 100 nits peak white, and even though grayscale was slightly lacking in green, delta errors all measured less than the humanly perceptible threshold of 3 including for colors, which is an outstanding result considering that it's merely factory calibration without any user adjustment. Not that there are any calibration controls for us to work our magic anyway. For HDR10 workflows, you should select the HDR Video P3 ST2084 preset. This tracked the PQ-EOTF standard accurately up to 1000 nits before hard clipping, which is what you would expect from a mastering monitor for post-production work. In this mode, peak brightness on our review unit measured just above 1000 nits, which can be sustained indefinitely full screen. Even with a slight tinge of blue in the grayscale, DCI P3 color tracking within a Rec 2020 container was impressively good, with an average error of less than 1 and maximum error of less than 3. DCI P3 color gamut coverage came in at nearly 99% UV, while Rec 2020 coverage was 73%. By selecting the Pro Display XDR mode and cranking brightness to maximum, peak brightness on a 10% window could be pushed within touching distance of the advertised 1600 nits. But accuracy took a hit, and there's some tone mapping roll-off at the top end, which is not what you want when you are grading HDR videos. So I would say that the XDR reference mode is more suitable for content consumption than content creation. Screen uniformity on our review unit was so-so, considering that it's only 32 inches, yet cost $5,000. There's some dirty screen effect or DSE, especially in the darker tones, not to mention some color tinting down the sides and darkening in the corners as we put up full-field gray slides on the monitor. The peripheral color tinting may be due to viewing angle. We took RGB balance measurements from the Apple Pro Display XDR as it's being rotated on a revolving surface, and as you can see, the whites took on a blue tint which became stronger the further we went off-axis. For subjective viewing, we put the Pro Display XDR right beside a Sony HX310, the very same reference broadcast monitor mentioned at Apple's launch event last year. First up, SDR, and we set the Pro Display XDR to the most accurate HD TV video preset for this type of content. The latest macOS Catalina update of 10.15.3 has changed the SDR local dimming response of the Pro Display XDR, so the scene from Gravity looked significantly more stable, although there's still some mild luminance fluctuation and darkening in the corners. Blacks looked closer to dark gray than inky black, resulting in a washed appearance, which is what we normally see from IPS LCD displays. The Pro Display XDR fared better on brighter scenes, with memory colors such as skin tones and foliage appearing suitably natural. To assess HDR output, we selected the HDR Video Reference preset. In HDR mode, since local dimming has to work much harder to not only hit 1000 nits of peak brightness, but also maintain deep blacks, some artifacts are inevitable. In this Starfield test sequence from the Spears & Mansell UHD HDR benchmark disk, the Pro Display XDR's local dimming struggled to keep up at the beginning, leading to an inconsistent, blotchy presentation with blooming artifacts. Once the stars were in full flow, therefore pretty much forcing local dimming to be switched off, the black floor was lifted significantly to IPS gray levels. On to better things. Bright scenes looked spectacular, delivering HDR impact in spades thanks to high peak brightness that's not restricted by ABL or automatic brightness limiter, although depending on the scene, some circumferential blooming would show up around bright objects against a black background. So, is the Apple Pro Display XDR a viable, cheaper alternative to a reference mastering monitor such as the Sony HX310? As you can see from the examples I've included in this video, the answer is no. It appears that Apple's marketing team may have been a bit overzealous in calling the Pro Display XDR the world's best Pro display. It's like me saying I have a 12-inch 12-inch portable DVD player. Yes, a 12-inch portable DVD player when I don't have one. Compared side by side with the Sony HX310, the Pro Display XDR exhibits a number of shortcomings, particularly in dark scenes, such as localized luminance fluctuations, blooming artifacts, as well as noticeably grayer blacks. For a monitor to be used as reference for commercial color grading, there can be no doubt whatsoever about the picture on screen. Let's say J.J. Abrams is looking over your shoulders and wants a bit more lens flare in a particular scene. Can you be 100% sure that the VFX you're adding in post will be reproduced accurately when watched on other displays? With the Pro Display XDR, there's no way you can tell, because you won't know whether an area of light scattering is actual lens flare or just blooming from the FALD backlight. When you take into account the color tinting down the sides due to limited viewing angles, the absence of HLG reference picture mode and HDMI or SDI inputs, as well as the temporary lack of calibration controls so it cannot currently be perceptually matched to a true reference monitor, I think the Pro Display XDR is a no-go for any serious professional colorist. When Apple announced at WWDC a contrast ratio of 1,000,000:1 for the Pro Display XDR, even comparing it with the Sony HX310, I naively assumed that the monitor must be using dual-layer LCD technology, but how wrong was I? At the end of the day, the Pro Display XDR is just an IPS monitor with 576 full array local dimming zones that happens to carry Apple's logo and cost $5,000 excluding stand. Is it fair then to judge a $5,000 monitor against the $43,000 Sony HX310 reference monitor? Well, it was Apple themselves who brought up this exact comparison at WWDC last year, and now you know that the Pro Display XDR doesn't deliver anywhere close to the consistency and accuracy demanded of reference monitors. So for its beautiful design, the Pro Display XDR may find its way into the office of a divorce lawyer, and for its high peak brightness that can be sustained full screen, it may appeal to a YouTuber wanting to produce HDR videos without caring too much about low light accuracy. I like its super sharp resolution and I like its out-of-the-box factory calibration. But for professional color grading work, unfortunately, I cannot recommend this monitor due to the issues I previously mentioned. If you have found this video useful, please click the like button and subscribe to the HDTV Test YouTube channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.